You know how people have comfort food or comfort TV shows? My wife likes to rewatch Friends when she's feeling down. I myself like to watch an old Jackie Chan movie like Armor of God or City Hunter. But since I play video games, I always have a comfort game, if you can call it that. It is generally a game that I would replay at least once a year. And back in the day when gaming scene was not dominated by roguelikes and procedural generation of everything, I would happily replay Half-Life 2, one of the greatest games in this universe, and after I discovered Dwarf Fortress, it was really hard to come back to conventional games, as the amount of stuff that you can do in Dwarf Fortress and the sheer percentage of randomness captivated me for a long time. Now, of course, we have such awesome games like Darkest Dungeon and RimWorld that are built around replayability and versatility of gameplay. Something that I never found in Pokémon, actually, despite it being one of my most favorite series of games ever. And God bless a person who invented Nuzlocke challenges. I actually enjoyed playing Pokémon as Nuzlocke for the past maybe 3 to 4 generations. Anyway, Pokémon Infinite Fusion takes all that stuff that I like in the above mentioned games and puts it inside a Pokémon game. In this game, you are able to mix any of the two Pokémon and create a new one, combining their movesets, abilities, stats, and of course, it will mix the sprites together to create either an absolute beast or a dreadful abomination. Certainly, I am, as always, late for the hype train, as this ROM hack have been widely popular in the past few months and people are doing this now and other oddly specific challenges. But anyway, I wanted to give it a try. I have completed the game with various settings maybe 5 or 6 times since February, and it really became my comfort game when I don't want or have anything cool to play at the moment. So, considering I was on the move for the past few weeks and didn't have access to my PS5, I decided to capture my Pokémon Infinite Fusion journey. We will play with a randomizer and with Fuse Everything mode. Also, all Nuzlocke rules are applied. So the rules are: a Pokémon is considered dead if its HP is down to 0, no items of any kind inside the battle, 1 Pokémon can be caught per area or route, and also a small rule, I'm still allowed to unfuse caught Pokémon to create better combinations. And lastly, level cap is the highest level Pokémon of the next gym leader. Okay, so long story short, we randomize everything and get straight into action. Our starter choices include Crannypoke, Pithorn and Chelsea, and I know what you're thinking, Crannypoke is a no-brainer choice, right? Well, for some unknown reason, even for myself, I choose Pithorn, and our rival chose Crannypoke, which demolished us completely. Fortunately, the challenge does not start until we get our first Pokeball, so it's too early to restart just yet. We grab a parcel for Oak and Viridian City, deliver it back, receive 5 Pokeballs from Oak and 2 more from another scientist in the building, and now the challenge has officially begun. We catch Hopmite on Route 1, Treereap on Route 22, Munchhorn from Viridian Mart as a gift, Voltsis on Route 2, Matata at Viridian Forest and Magiskoll at Route 3. And just before getting to Brock, we also lose Hopmite to a random trainer. Rest in peace, sweet prince. And I forgot to mention that gym leaders types are also randomized, so Brock is now a grass type leader. We don't have any fire types, but no significant disadvantage either. And Brock is generally fairly easy all the time, so we get a few levels up and face him with Speedhorn and Voltsis. Brock starts with a Cottonling and gets demolished easily by a few gusts from Pithorn. His ace is Meowsauer, who managed to put Pithorn in the yellow with a few bites, but a couple of more gusts bring him down, earning our first badge. Not long after, we get to Mount Moon Poke Center where we buy Suns for
$300.
After that, I decide to do some fusions and now we have Solorb, Ralgi, Dewhorn and Suncarp. Inside Mount Moon we catch Slugshrew and also our Matata evolves into Marsh Data. And Treereap evolves into Treefy and then into Groffy. We also lose Solorb to a random trainer. I have to say, the random trainer encounters can be quite terrifying, but fortunately we did not get any surprising dragon types with Dragon Rage yet. These are the early game run killers, because Dragon Rage does fixed 400 damage. I mean, 440 damage. 400 damage would be devastating. We also catch Proudence after Mount Moon and go for another fusing session, which procures Magitomp, Equile and Ryard. One thing I did not take into account is that by doing more fusions, it severely cut the levels of my mons, and now we are fully unprepared for the rival fight. So I had to spend the next hour grinding levels to get closer to the level cap and also evolving Ralj into Ralotto, which looks pretty cool actually. Finally, we're ready to take on Vaporeon, our rival, and he starts off with Pincers against our Slugshoe, which is quite terrifying. We fry Pincers with Amber, which also burns him on the first try. His Vital Throw doesn't do much damage to Slugshoe, so I'm feeling quite confident. Hidden Power though, from Pincers does significantly more damage, but another Amber and burn damage finished the slimy bug off. The next one is Drowran, which also gets burned after a headbutt, so I decide to switch into Dewhorn. Rival also uses a super potion, but Drowran still gets demolished by burn damage and a couple of horn attacks. Next one is Smertic. Smertic's Fury Cutter doesn't do a lot of damage and we get him down in a few horn attacks either. Finally, it's down to rival starter, who already evolved into King. I decide to switch to Magitomp, knowing that most certainly we need to sacrifice him in order to get a clean switch. Being the hero he is, Magitomp actually does good damage to King and also goes down to Takedown, which damages King even further. We switch to Ralotto, who manages to finish off King with Gust and Magic Leaf. Misty got randomized to Ice type, which is nice since we have Slugshoe. We get SS and Stick It from Bill and also trick a guy to get Flame Charge early, which I teach to Slugshoe as we go to challenge Misty. And being Ice type, Misty's gym is actually a cakewalk. She starts with Sweetos, who goes down with 2 Flame Charges, and Smurina goes down with 2 more Flame Charges. Easy fight, no pressure thanks to Slugshoe. We get to Vermilion City catching Hootsie on Route 5, Pitcarp in Diglett Tunnel, Sunbusken on Route 11, Adio in the Vermilion City. We also evolve Slugshoe into Slugslash and also fusing Larvicarp and evolving it into Larvidos. And on SSN we get to fight our rival again. Rival sends out his Data, which looks cool and pretty terrifying because of the supposed Dragon Rage. Fortunately, he doesn't use or doesn't know Dragon Rage, but Data uses Stomp and Dragon Breath, paralyzing Larvidos, and it's not looking good. Though Larvidos manages to get Rock Slide down to one-shot. Next one is Volter, who is looking awesome. We switch to Slugslash, who manages to tank 4 or 5 Nightshades and dispatch it with some Flame Charges. Next on the line is Sneechu, and we send out Equile, who immediately gets off his Intimidate, lowering Sneechu's attack. Equile gets a few acids down and Sneechu just buff itself with agility instead of using Icy Wind, but okay. We proc Super Potion from Rival and get a few acids down until I have to switch Equile to Dewhorn. Dewhorn finishes off Sneechu with Rock Smash, but it also manages to paralyze him before going down. Finally is Rampking, who evolved again. Dewhorn manages to get around 30% of Rampaking's HP with a Shadow Sneak, but gets hurt badly by Confusion. The team is in a pretty bad shape now, so I switch to Ralotto, who does not do a lot of damage with Magic Leaf. I decide to risk it, but Ralotto still dies to a takedown, though it manages to get rival Ace to around 20% HP, which opens a road to Ryard, to finish it off with a feint attack. Whew, so far, rival battles are much harder than gym battles, but fortunately we are good for now and haven't lost a lot of mods. I've used Drovyard for the sake of type variety, and we get to Surge, who is randomized to flying type gym. We start with Larvidos and Surge gets out Pidgeotto, or Pidgeotto, which could have been our starter's evolution. No regrets, as Pidgeotto gets obliterated by Rock Slide in one shot. And same thing happens to Piedude. The only one who did show a sign of resistance is Ferodrio, Surge's ace, which actually looks very cool. We take it down with a lot of Rock Slides, prompting Surge to waste all of his super potions. And another gym badge is in our pockets, and so far it's going pretty good. I hope nothing bad happens to this run. Catch a lot of new Pokemon, which are Gliscor on Route 9, Yiri on Route 10, Trappish at the power plant, Wooburl at the rock tunnel, and we also get a Larino or Larino from an old man in the rock tunnel. We also get Duak and Zurion from fossils in Pewter City, and cross-fuse them to get Durion and Flavak. Though we lose Flavak to another random trainer fight not long after. But we fuse Comwhirl instead. In Lavender's Town we have to fight the rival yet again, and this time it goes much better. Slugslash manages to demolish Blazown in one rock slide, and then we almost one-shot Emperorarch, who was disguised as Rampaging. Even Super Potion wasn't able to save him, and he gets down to a Flame Charge and burn damage. Next up is Maghorn, who gets disintegrated by Magnitude 8, and finally real Rampaging, who also gets down to Magnitude 8. Slugslash is going to be pretty good. Can't wait to level him up to his final form. On our way to Celadon, we catch Cotondor on Route 8, Cinderace on Route 7, and Voltvic in the sewers. And also evolve Equile to Arwile and Larvidos to Pupidos. We clean the sewers with Erika, and it's a great way to level up there, since Erika will heal all Pokemon after every fight. So you can go all out and just grab these free levels while you're there. We get to the Team Rocket hideout and get into the fight with Giovanni, which gets really bad really fast. Firstly, I didn't have a lot of healing items on me, and you cannot go back to surface after entering the room with Erika and Giovanni, which I didn't know. Secondly, Giovanni's Pokemon were pretty high level, which was also a surprise. The fight starts with Pupidos against G's Sandbog, which gets one shot with Aqua Tail. Next up is Magnifink, which is demolished by Slugslash as well. And all in all, Giovanni only has 3 Pokemon here, so I was thinking that I'm in a good position until he gets out level 35 Galtar. And it doesn't look that scary, but he flinches Slugslash with Dark Pulse and puts him in a red, which is a pretty bad start. I switch to Larvidos and sacrifice him to do a clean switch. Then we put out Aduo, who does decent damage with Iron Head, but almost gets killed as well. So I switch back to Slugslash and get it killed. Questionable play, yeah, I know, but okay. Then back to Aduo that does not outspeed Galtar and gets killed too. So at this point I'm pretty much panicking, so that's why I played the way I played. I put out Arwile and trigger Intimidate, but it also doesn't outspeed and gets killed by Psycho Cup. Durion gets out and does a bit more damage before going down as well, and I am down to only Comwhirl. He tanks Dark Pulse and doesn't flinch, which allows for some good damage with Bubble Beam. Galtar uses Thrash that almost kills Comwhirl, but luckily we get him down with another Bubble Beam. Wow, 5 Pokemon dead, and if it was a bit later in the game, I would have called this run failed. But we have a lot of Pokemon in the box, so it's time to fuse a new team and get grinding. So after some experimentation, we fused Volrate, Polyhoot, Yatwig, Hounvee and Nidoquil. And of course, after we get to grinding, we have Nidoquil evolved into Nidolava, Polyhoot evolved into Polyowl, then reversed Polyowl into Noctwhirl. Noctwhirl evolved into Noctwrath. Vulrate evolved into Voolery and then into Ninelery, which is reversed into Octitails. Yatwick evolved into Yaddle. Hounwee evolved into Houndoomwee and then evolved into Hounsion. Hounsion then reversed into Gladoom. Then Yaddle evolved into Yatera and also Drovyard evolved into Hypeyard. Finally, we're back from the brink of death with a new team and we can challenge Erica, who is actually randomized to fire. Erica starts with Birion against our Octitails and quickly gets down to yellow with one Octazooka. Though before Octitails is able to finish it off, Erica switches to Maratails and now it's Ninetales versus Ninetales Fusion. Nice. And it's actually a one-shot with Octazooka, which is kinda anticlimactic. Erica's Ace per 9 does good damage with extreme speed, but also gets into the yellow with one attack and heals back a bit with his berry. We switch to Noctraz that manages to paralyze per 9 with one body slam and then finishes it off with a dynamic punch. He immediately learns Air Slash and uses it against half-dead Birion to win the battle and net us our 5th badge. After that we go through Lavender Town where we catch Yanball, Yatera evolves into Kofatera and we also fuse Gyard. We also catch Mukhan, which is a fitting name for a Mongolian emperor, who is randomized from Snorlax encounter. In the meantime, we also evolve Gyard into Gyard and Nidolava into Nidolosion. And next up is Fuchsia City and Koga's gym, who is still a Poison type. We start off with Kofatera and Koga sends out a very weird Nidoran. Kofatera, being a new powerhouse of my team, quickly demolishes it with an Earthquake. Next up is Yanans, who somehow survives 3 Earthquakes but still goes down. Next one is Crotar, who is kinda scary. I risk setting up Will-O-Wisp and Leech Seed combo, but only manage to burn it. Dark Pulse flinches Kofatera and almost kills it, so I switch out to Noctwrath. Crotar's ability heals burn, rendering Kofatera's job futile, but Noctwrath's Dynamic Punch connects and confuses it. I go for Body Slam hoping for a Paralyze, but Crotar uses Thrash and kills itself with recoil damage. Nice play, Koga. Finally, we're down to Koga's ace Crochu, who is absolutely awesome and terrifying. By the way, I forgot to mention that I gave Noctraz a Rocky Helmet, which damages anyone who is using a physical attack against it. Considering Noctraz is quite tanky, it's actually quite good. We confuse Crochu with Dynamic Punch and try to paralyze it with some body slams, but to no avail. And actually, come to think of it, I think you cannot paralyze if the Pokemon is already confused and vice versa, so yeah, but I'm not that good with Pokemon games, so let me know in the comments how does that work. It also manages to poison, so before it's too late I switch to Gyard, who tanks Swift and Leech Life and finishes the job with Double Chop. Oh boy, this actually was a bit harder. And I expect the game to pick up in difficulty in the next gyms, so we better start preparing for the worst. Before we advance the storyline, we drop by Safari Zone where we get Driftchu in Area 1, Fico in Area 5, Dupert, finally something good, in Safari Ruins, and also Dugans on Route 16. And after clearing Silphco, we get Vaporetra as a gift. We also reverse Nidolosion to Typh King, who has better stats and a custom sprite. Our rival decides to fight us in the most inconvenient moment, just behind the corner from Giovanni. I wonder how that looked like from G's perspective. Oh yeah, let's fight, I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna show you my new Pokemon, yeah. Guys, I'm literally right here. I'm just like, it's like 5 meters. This room doesn't even have doors, you know, so like... Anyway, he starts with Xastar against our Kofatera. We get him down with 2 Earthquakes and rival sends Gyaraking, which also triggers Intimidate. I try to play safe and go for Synthesis to heal and try to one-shot with Wooden Hammer, but Garaking survives that. And I don't know why I did not switch out, as it was obvious that I don't outspeed. Probably I was thinking that Rival will use some other attack, but he uses Hydro Pump that demolishes our Cofetera and will lose one of our strongest mons in our team. Good night, sweet prince. You did great. We put our Octitails, who is quite fast and quickly finishes Garaking off with Hex. Next one is our friend Rampacane. I set up Burn with Will-O-Wisp and then Hex him for bigger damage. It doesn't one-shot, but he dies to burn damage anyway after a Zen Headbutt. Next up is Eswar. I decided not to risk losing Octitails as well and switch to Typhking. Eswar uses Future Sight and then Imprison, which is weird. Typhking gets it to 30% HP with one poison jab. She uses Last Resort, which fails, and Typhking finishes her off with another poison jab. Big brain plays, Rival. Big brain plays. The last one from Rival's team is Jotang, which doesn't really look intimidating. I switch to Gladom and it dispatches it quickly with 3 feint attacks. And after the battle with Rival, we jump right into a double fight with G. G starts with Tritor and awesome looking Unxis, and we start off with Typhking and Rival's Miura. I risk a bit and get punished by Unxis using Psychic 2 times on Typhking, killing it. In the meantime, Tritor gets Miura absolutely disintegrated by Wooden Hammer, so we're not looking too good here. Though Tritor gets massive recoil damage and dies in the process, so yeah, kinda lucky here. We choose Gaillard to go next and Giovanni switches in Torpy, another legendary fusion. This guy is not joking anymore, and Rival gets out Gardenzing. We try to finish Unxis with Dragon Claw, but it survives. Torpy unleashes a flamethrower to Gaillard's face, almost killing it. I switch to Octitails and Unxis gets healed. And at this point I'm pretty confident that we are going to wipe, especially with Rival's Pokemon not contributing positively to this fight. Psychic and Flamethrower nearly kills both of our mons, and Octitails goes full out with Octazooka doing decent damage to Torby and Sludge Bomb nearly one-shotting Unxis. At the same time, and I completely forgot about it, Future Sight procs and Unxis finally goes down. Nice play, Rival. Now for real. G switches in Hypode and finishes off Gardenzing with a Zen Headbutt, and Octitails, having Flash Fire, tanks Torby's Flamethrower and retaliates with an Octazooka, killing the legendary chicken finally. Rival pushes in Cleftor and I switch to Gladoo. Despite it's 2 versus 1 and we have full HP Pokemon, Hypode manages to do some massive damage with Discharge and I have to switch to Noctbreath. Fortunately, Cleftor Metronome is randomized to Poison Tail, finishing Hypode off. God, that was a pretty sweaty fight. And with Silphco liberated, we finally can challenge Sabrina, who is a ground-type gym leader in this universe. We start off with Gladom against her Maroligator, and oh boy, these names are not getting easier. And we drop it to around 50% with Ice Fangs, but after a Thrash, which gets Gladom to yellow, we have to switch into Noctwrath. Sabrina heals Maroligator and we're back to square one, though Thrash doesn't do too much damage to tanky Noctwrath. We're lucky his Confusion proc several times and we managed to bring the dinosaur down with another Dynamic Punch. Next one is Stuntwile, and just look at his derpy face, oh my god.
Bruh, look at this dude.
Muddy Water doesn't do any damage and we take that chance to heal with Roost. Then a perfectly executed Body Slam paralyzes him and we continue Body Slamming it into Oblivion, proccing another Hyper Potion. A few Body Slams later and a few missed Dynamic Punches and we manage to bring it down as well. Next up is Grunpert and I decide to switch to Octitails, which get almost killed by Rock Slide, so now it's not looking too good for us. Luckily, Gaillard is tanky enough, but he cannot do too much damage due to Grunpert's immunity to Dragon type, so we're just slowly bringing him down to yellow until I switch back to Noctraz to finish the job. Finally, we're up against Slowqueen, Sabrina's ace, and after healing a bit with Roost, we managed to bring it down with some aerial slashes and Rocky Helmet damage. And I have to say, Noctraz is becoming an absolute MVP of my team, especially with Rocky Helmet and Roost. With Sabrina out of the way and level cap increased, we try our luck with Martial Art Gym, which is randomized ironically to Psychic. Gym Leader opens up with terrifying Mr. Icate, who gets quickly dispatched by Gaillard and his dual chops. Next is Granking versus Octitails, and we almost get him with Hexes, but I decide not to risk it, even though we outspeed, so I get Noctraz to finish the job. Finally, it's Eletaf who gets paralyzed by the first body slam, and the rest is history. All 3 gift mons in the gym are randomized as well, so I ask my wife to pick a ball for me. She goes for the right one, and well, it's Hydrangea. And if you don't know why that is awesome, let me explain. It's Ghost Dark type and it has Wonder Guard that makes it completely immune to all damage except Fairy type. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, hello Mold Breaker, but as long as we are careful, we can really get through a lot of tough moments with it. Surely, I won't try to use it exclusively, but it's a bit stupid not to use it in a Randomizer Nuzlocke, so you will be seeing him a lot from now on. Next up is Cinnabar, but first we need to go through Mount Ember. We catch Raikhan on Route 21, Snabuskin at the offshore road, and also Gaillard evolves into Garyard. Inside Mount Ember we have to fight Zapmol Kuno, and usually it's my least favorite fight in the game, because it is basically a 3v1 fight. But with Hydrangea on our hands, it goes something like this. We do some workups while the legendary bird tries to hit us with non-fairy attacks and then dispatch every bird with shadow balls. And yes, I know I said I won't use Hydrangea exclusively, but this fight is not fair and I don't want to lose the whole team again. And I still have a price to pay. Since Hydrangea gets so much experience that it goes beyond the level cap, I cannot use him at Blaine's gym. Moltres gets randomized to Volcano, so we catch him as our Mount Ember encounter and get back to Cinnabar to get Blaine in the mansion. Blaine is randomized to Ghost type, which is kinda scary and dangerous. We start off with Blaine's Duskter versus our Gladoom, and Icy Doggo quickly dispatches it with some foul plays. Next up is Genpom, who gets 2-shot by Gladoom as well. After that comes Genape, and I kinda like this monkey ghost type thing that Blaine has. It throws Destiny Bond, but I try to risk it and Gladoom gets down from Dark Pulse. You did well, boy. You're a good doggo. We switch in Garyard and finish Genape with a Shadow Claw, and now it's time for Blaine's ace, Shandizor. The first Shadow Claw gets it into yellow, and Double Edge is not doing a lot of damage to Garyard, so we comfortably finish it off with another Shadow Claw. We also evolve Garyard into Garsharp, and I have to say, it looks amazing. I have to say that fight was a huge misplay from my end, and we could have Gladoom alive right now. But oh well, I'm sorry about that. Finally, it's only our old pal G left in Viridian, but first we need to do some grinding. With Gladoom Dad, we have a space on the roster, so I fuse Bulbani that quickly evolves into Grass Fairy Venukot. Dopert also evolves into Aegipert, and we're looking quite nice before the final gym. So Giovanni is a normal type, which is pretty mellow, so I'm sure we won't have any issues. G opens up the match with Porinite. We do some good damage with Sacred Sword, and G decides to switch into Bite 2, or B2, by the way, hilarious fusion. B2 does decent damage with superpower, but quickly goes down from Agipert's Earthquake. Next up is Snoredge, and I get Hydrangea to be safe. After one kick with Acrobatics, he uses Big Brain Tactics and belly drums 50% of his HP to be finished by another set of Acrobatics. Porinite is back, and we quickly get him down with Dual Chop from Garsharp. Next is Gyrodon, who is looking kinda cool. He gets Dual Chopped for around 35% and sets up a nasty plot. I decide to get Noctrast for some super effective damage, but he gets one shot by Gyrodon's Psychic. Damn, that was a big kick in the groin just before the Elite Four. Giovanni is absolute MVP in this run. Not only he nearly wiped my team, he also got my powerhouse just before the Elite Four. Props to him, he's a great guy. We finish Gyrodon with Octitails, Ice Beam and face Togegon 2, who is not looking very intimidating. But of course, whenever I say this, it turns out to be completely opposite, as a discharge almost kills Octitails, so I must switch again. Garsharp does some damage with Dig, but Togegon counters my digs with Lock On. Finally, I have to resort to using Hydrangea again and finish off this absolute beast with Acrobatics. With level cap increased to level 64 one last time, we have one more spot on the roster again. So after some experimenting, I fuse Railing. Next up is a rival fight just before the victory road. I start with Hydrangea against his Venozone, who gets smacked by a few Shadow Balls. Croizard is next and is almost killed by Hydrangea as well, but I decide to switch to Octitails, so it's not super easy for me. In any case, one surf later and Croizard is no more. When Rampaking comes out, I switch to Garsharp and Rampaking goes down after Rocky Helmet damage and some Shadow Claws. Then Garsharp also deals with Octifairy, Umptli and finally Spiriuni. We managed to catch Mewbeak on Victory Road, and I decide to use it with Raichu to get at least one legendary fusion in this playthrough, so we get Mewtwo. We also get a Jirachi event, which I never encountered before, but two legendary fusions are too much, so we'll leave it for some other time. Considering Elite Four is the last fight in the game, I decide to name my team finally. So here's the final team that we have in this randomized Nuzlocke. SCP-628, the Hydrangea. And yeah, if you know, you know. Eva-01, the Garsharp. Ariel, the Octitails. Amaterasu, the Mewtwo. Lubu, the Agipert. And Sunny, the Venocott. And yeah, my imagination kinda dwindled down on this one. After some grinding, we enter Elite Four domain, and the first up is Lorelei, who is a Dragon type. Lorelei starts with Chinkia against 682, and it goes down easily after a worked up Acrobatics. Next, we sweep through Joltegon, Dragadrill, and switch to Eva-01 to fight Huxdrill, who sets up Sword Dance, which is frightening. Eva-01 nearly dies to a jump kick, but retaliates with Double Chop and gets it down in one go. We switch back to 682 to be safe, and yes, I'd like to use him a lot before the champion fight, gotta preserve our resources. 682 quickly dispatches the Darkness Dragon with a few acrobatics, and we're moving to Bruno. Bruno is a dark type here and start with Omgios against 682. We quickly sweep through him, Weesharp and Umno, but I switch on Pucosol because I think Innards Out would damage 682 anyway, so I decide not to risk it. But as I switch to Eva-01, it uses Memento and kills itself, so yeah. Lastly is Darkbra, who gets disintegrated by the first chop, winning us the road to Agatha. Somehow Agatha is also a dragon type, which never happened before, but okay. It means more awesome dragon fusions to see. She starts with Nidoras, who gets one shot by 682's Phantom Force. Same goes to Garqueen, Haziken, Duskner, and finally the adorable looking Gariel. Finally, we are about to face Lance, and no, he's not the dragon type this time, but he's an electric type. And at this point no one can stop 6A2 as it goes into Rampage, so Alachu gets one shot by Shadow Ball together with Lux Swine. As Darkrow comes out, we switch into Lubu, who one-shots it with Earthquake. Though Lubu struggles a bit with Rotoise, we switch into Sunny to finish the job with Petal Dance. So yeah, boys and girls, this is it. Fortunately, we haven't lost any Pokemon, so we will have a nice 6v6 fight with the champion. Roiken gets one shot by 6A2 Shadow Ball, and next comes Nidoizard that we put against Ariel. She blocks fire type attacks, but he still manages to get her with Mega Horn, but not for a lot of damage. Though Earth Power gets Ariel to the red, so I have to switch to Lubu as rival heals Nidoizard, and we're back to square one. Lubu tanks Flamethrower to the face but manages to one-shot the Big King Lizard with an Earthquake. Next up is adorable looking Sunzor, and we get EVA-01 to deal with it. Petal Blizzard doesn't do any damage, and few Dual Chops get Sunzor back into the Pokeball. Next up is Magnichu, and I wanted to put up it against Amaterasu so we have a nice Raichu fusion fight, but we are not allowed to switch due to Magnet Pull, so it kinda goes like this. Next is Milorate, and we finally get Amaterasu out. She gets Milorate down to 40% with Psychic, and before we are able to finish it, Rampaking goes out to tank it. We get him in the red with couple of Thunderbolts, and then he realizes that all resistance is futile and kills himself with the recoil damage from Head Smash. And we are back to Milorate, and I'm getting Sunny to finish the job with Petal Dance. And that's it. Finally, we are the Pokemon champion. Pokemon Infinite Fusion Hardcore Randomizer Nuzlocke, guys. Here you go. To be honest, it felt like it was a bit easy in the end due to Hydrangea being an absolute beast, but honestly I think I should have kept the level cap for Elite Four at around maybe level 58 or 60, something like that. More to that, based on some talks I had with guys on Pokemon Infinite Fusion Discord, apparently when you randomize everything in the game, the AI gets a bit broken and a bit stupid, so it's not using its full potential. But despite all this, I am happy with how this turned out and will definitely revisit this game at least once a year. Just a quick side note, I made this video while moving apartments and didn't have access to my PS5 and TV. So anyone who is here for Platinum trophies, you can consider this a filler episode. I will be back to doing Platinum trophies starting the next video. And of course, thanks for watching and see you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave a comment. I reply to all comments. And of course, give Pokemon Infinite Fusion a try. It's an awesome game, and it certainly will be one of my comfort games for years to come.